A few things. I would like to wish some of our Midtowners and their aunts on their birthdays. Today, 5th October, we have Anne Manju Batra celebrating her birthday, and past President Rotarian Nishu Jawhari also celebrates her birthday today. 7th October, Anne Manisha Patanshetty celebrates her birthday. 8th October is Anne Aarti Sood's birthday, and 12th October is Anne Shobha Talam's birthday. On 18th, we have Anne Darshana Shah and Seema Agarwal celebrating their birthdays. So this seems to be a month of more of the aunts celebrating their birthdays. Happy birthday to all of you. God bless you. And Manisha, enjoy your birthday, please. Okay. And I request our Honorary Secretary Namita Bhatia to take over, and she will have a secretary's announcements and also have the delightful task of spotlighting our Rotarian Virendra Shadakshari today. Ma'am, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Shrikant. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody to this Star Speaker meeting. Firstly, I'd like to announce that we have moved our fellowship to the 11th of October because we had a lot of traveling guests, traveling members on for the 8th and other events as well. And we definitely want the fellowship to be a full house. So please get ready to be there on the 11th. And we also have a super bumper tombola, which the proceeds of which are going to go to the Zero Hunger Project, where the district is going to match us to whatever we collect. And that way, I'm sure we can really help to feed the needy. So let's come together. Let's enjoy this fellowship. It's been quite long since we met. And the prizes that we are giving out is nearly over 1.5 lakh. So I don't know anybody who'd want to miss out this opportunity. The gifts are just fantastic. I'm going to be sharing them with you on the groups tomorrow onwards. Other than that, we have a meeting on the 12th. We have Sharon Schweitzer, and look forward to all of you attending it. So before we get on with the talk, I'd like to invite Rotarian Virendra Shadakshari to be spotlighted. He's our new member, and I just thought that we all should get to know our members. So we made it a practice to spotlight the new members. So welcome, Rotarian Virendra. And
thank you, Namrata. Thank you, Shrikant. Yeah. Great to be here.
Right. Yep. So lovely to talk to you. I've just had brief chats with you, but today I think I have the opportunity of grilling you. So to begin
it's very aptly named, Spotlight.
Yeah. But you are more Sportlight from what I've heard. We'll talk about that as well. So
sure.
Tell us a little about your vocation. What do you do? How do you spend your time? Let's get to know you better.
Sure. I did my engineering way back in 98, followed it up with an MBA. Now I'm doing neither of those two things. I run a chain of hotels called Ramanashri in Bangalore. We have 3 hotels, Ramanashri, Brampton, Richmond, and California Resort. So an engineer serving as a head waiter is what you can call me. We are also into education. We have about half a dozen schools here in Bangalore, CBSE schools. And like everybody else in Bangalore, we are also into real estate. So this is our main stay. These are the things that we have been doing. And apart from that, I have been dabbling in a little bit of investing into startups, more for the friends and family kind of investments. Yeah, all in all, we hope the COVID ends soon and all of our affected businesses come back online, and hopefully we get to learn what to do with our monies from Monica Halan today.
Yeah, that's a perfect meeting for you to attend. Nice to know that. And tell us about your lovely family.
I've been blessed with 2 kids. Elder one is a daughter. She's in her 12th grade. She's looking forward to becoming a lawyer. Dangerous choice for her, but I think we are very happy about that because none of our family members are lawyers, and she argues about everything. You tell her it's night, she argues that it's day. You tell her it's summer, she says it's winter. So I think she's picked the right track. So she wants to go on to do her law. She's right now in Aditya Malya, and I think next year she looks to place herself in some nice law university. My second one is a son. He's in his 7th grade. He's 12 years old, but going on 21. He's a very serious gamer. He's on Fortnite, and I think he's my ticket to the $1 billion dream. Apart from that, my wife and I are college mates, classmates, and now soulmates for life. We met in college, and we've been together ever since. I think this is the single longest date I have been on. It's lasted for about 20 years. This is the 20th year anniversary for us. Come December, we would have been with each other for about 20 years, 2 decades. Yeah. So that's my family. I'm with my father in business and at home. He's my guiding light, philosopher, financier, and every once in a while gives me a pat on the back or on the head, as may the case be.
Fantastic. You've described it so beautifully. So the whole Rotary Bangalore Midtown is looking forward to the December invitation
Absolutely.
for your 20th
Absolutely.
anniversary.
We're planning on going out of country if
Yes.
the corona does not come in the third wave. So I will tell you the destination. Please do join us over there. It'll be nice.
You can also charter the flight. We'll be happy to join you.
Absolutely.
We are only 105 members.
Yeah, so one flight is enough.
easily
The
fit in.
spouse
Yeah.
ho
That's
jayega.
okay, sir. That's okay. I think we should just go on a cruise or something like that. It'll be better. It'll be our own version of Dil Dhadkne Do.
Yes, yes. Superb. It's so nice to connect with you. Tell us a little about your hobbies. What is it that you like to do, and what kind of sports do you indulge in? I know you're a
Okay.
spotlight man, so tell us about it.
So I started golf after denying and not getting into golf, thinking it's an old man's game, it's a retired person's game, at the prime age of 42. And the first day at course, I had this senior gentleman in a golf cart going really slow, and I checked with my caddy as to what's his age and things like that. And he said that the gentleman was Wing Commander Kumar, I think, and he happened to be 92 years old, but still on the golf course. And I was 42 years. So for me, that golf has been a passion, has been a hobby, has been a sport of choice since then. I'm 4 years old in golf. But that day I felt that there's a sport that I could be associated for the next 50 years if I kept my health and life intact. So that was my thing. And yeah, it's a sport which is very like our business. Am I audible? I'm sorry.
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah, okay.
Very much.
So it's a sport I absolutely fallen in love with, and wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and ask me to go to a course. I would love to do that. My record has been 23 courses, including some non-mentionable courses, which are so tiny it cannot be a golf course. But the honorable mention has been St. Andrews, which is supposed to be the mecca of golf courses. I have visited that. Yeah. So all my vacations now are somehow or the other find a golf day is sewn into that. So that's been my passion. That's been my hobby. Apart from that, I'm a voracious reader. I would have possibly read at least 100 books in a year. And one of the books I happened to browse through was, of course, Let's Talk About Money. And yeah, so that's me in terms of hobbies and sport.
Awesome. So now I'd like to come to the serious question. What's your what are you bringing to the table for Rotary?
So Pearl, will you be the
Yeah, so I have been a tabler for a long time. Close to about 10 years, I've been a tabler. I loved tabling so much. I thought when I turned 40 and they chucked me out unceremoniously, I should get into something that will not chuck me out at least for the next 40, 50 years. And Rotary has been that. I have joined Rotary sometime in 2019. Unfortunately, I think 2020. Unfortunately, the COVID and other things have happened. But I really look forward to meeting with this wonderful group of people, 105. I would love to meet with each of the 105 and their families, get to learn from them, get to share their experiences. Apart from networking. I would love to have understanding as to what makes each one of us tick. I love the fact that you are into service. I love the fact that you're into fellowship. I think these two things are something that I would love to contribute in whatever way I can.
Superb. So we are going to give you a strong role and would love for you to be a part of it. Thank you so much, Virendra. It's been amazing talking to you. And I'm sure everyone's now gotten to know you a little better until we meet in person. I hope we're seeing you on the 11th at the fellowship.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be there with my lucky tickets.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And may I now request Rotarian Griffith to please introduce our star speaker. And may I request everyone to kindly go on mute.
Thank you, Nam. Appreciate that. That was such a fantastic introduction, Veer. Looking forward to meeting you. We're very excited that you're part of Rotary. It's a very dynamic place to be in. So welcome, Veer. Shrikant and Nam, I was very excited when I saw that the speaker for this evening, the star speaker for this evening was going to be Monica Allen. I'm very familiar with her work. I'm a big fan of her stuff. And you know, we live in very interesting times, right? To say the least. We're in a unique time in history. Governments around the world have pumped in crazy amounts of money into the system. Stock markets are up everywhere, defying all laws of gravity and common sense and logic. Interest rates are at a historic low everywhere. All asset classes have risen. Bitcoin, we name it, everything is going up. And I'm sure all of you have pondered this question: what does this mean for our personal finances? What does this mean to our assets in the future? And so when I saw the speaker for the evening, I was like, yes, spot on, great timing. And you know, and as I was reading through her resume today, I was just very, very impressed. And I was like, okay, this is going to be an excellent meeting. So just to kind of refresh everybody and bring everybody up to speed on Monica Allen's very impressive resume. She's been a contributing editor to Mint, ET, and she was the editor of Outlook Money. And of course, as Veer mentioned, she's written Let's Talk Money, which is published by HarperCollins in 2018. She's published several academic papers on household finance. She's also run very successful finance shows on ZTV, Bloomberg, and NDTV. She's a public policy expert with the government of India and is on several committees. She's also an adjunct professor at the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. And if all this was not enough, she was named by Yale as a World Fellow in 2011. She has a master's in economics from the Delhi School of Economics and a master's in journalism from the University of Wales. So I think we are in very good hands this evening. And without further ado, I'd like to pass on the show to Ms. Monica Allen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely delighted to.
She's also an adjunct professor at the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. And if all this was not enough, she was named by Yale as a World Fellow in 2011.
Somebody
switch on the YouTube. They just got
yeah.
All right. Monica, it's so wonderful having you here with us. You know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and for many years as a financial planner, I have been observing your work. I have been following your work. I have admired the way you courageously call a spade, whether in private or public. And that's what has made you a torchbearer of personal finance. You're even now the go-to person for the government and the regulator for so many issues concerning investor protection. Thank you for being with us, Monica. I would like to sort of kick off the session by asking you what inspired you to write this book, this bestseller, Let's Talk Money, which I've seen wherever I've traveled, the bookstores, show windows, I have the smiling face of you saying, let's talk money.
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you so much. And I'm going to take a moment just to update the resume, which was sent to you, but it didn't have one key piece. And maybe I should have actually given this, since I'm coming to a Rotary meeting, that the second master's that you see on the resume, the master's in journalism studies in UK, was financed by a Rotaract ambassadorial scholarship all the way back in 1993. So a Delhi club had, I mean, they had had interviews and they finally shortlisted 3 people that year. And I don't know if that scholarship is still on. It was a lovely scholarship. And I was a very junior reporter in Business Today in my first job. And I happened to win that scholarship. And everybody said that you can't take a year out at the top of your career. You've just begun. But you know how it is that I decided to go ahead, and it was a fantastic, wonderful experience. And because I was a Rotary ambassadorial scholar, the local Rotary clubs in the UK would call me for lectures on India. And in 1993, I would go and talk about India and about what we were doing. And one of the comments was that they were not used to seeing women out of India coming in and talking to them. So I thought I would just share this little piece of very important information for this group of people, that it is Rotary that made that second master's possible entirely.
This is such amazing news and a piece of providence that here you are
Yes.
mentioning this in a Rotary club.
Yes.
Okay.
So coming to the book, why did I write the book? So every time I would do a talk, a public talk, or a team show, or if I had people writing into me, one of the things they would say is that when you speak to us, we understand what you're saying, but what do I read? And my sense was that there are wonderful books on money out there, but there wasn't something which would onboard a person. So the baby steps I thought was missing. So there were portfolio and retirement and, get rich and all those kind of books are there. But something which was a very basic fundamental conversation about money, which onboards us with baby steps. For instance, having your personal cash flow system, having an emergency fund. Essentially, we weren't being prepared emotionally and financially to take risk. We were just being told, oh, you should definitely be investing in the stock market. But I felt that there wasn't enough attention given to preparing ourselves to do that. That was one. And the second was that a lot of the popular books didn't talk to our culture. We have a very unique ancient culture, and there is a whole lot of nuances to that. So certain books coming out of the West, one of the books actually talks down a real father and talks about a rich father. Who in India would write about their own father saying that, oh, he's a poor dad? So somewhere, yes, there are things to learn from such a book. I don't deny that. But I just thought that in our cultural context, we don't have anything which is talking to us about who we are, how we deal with families, how we think about money. Can we ever think of drawing down our corpus and leaving no inheritance? We can't even imagine it, right? We do everything for the kids. So I just thought that there was the need for a book in the Indian cultural context. So those were the two big things why I wrote that book, Srikanth.
Oh, wow, that's a new one. So how do you think the Indian culture really impacts us in our investing or saving habit, Monica?
So what has happened is that from being a very, very rich country in many, many, many centuries ago, we became a very, very, very poor country. And that poverty mindset has made us very careful with money. And this is true of our generation, the generation which is born after 91, especially the millennials, people who've been born in 2000 and after that, have been born in an India which is very different. The mindset is different. But for all of us who are born in that entire poverty mindset, I think it makes us savers. So we are extremely good at saving, but I think this saving to investing, that is where we falter. So look at our national savings ratios, very, very high. And you think of someone in their 40s and 50s who've got fairly good assets. I think their savings ratios, if they're still earning, is 70 to 80%. It is difficult for us to spend the way that we see the younger generations, and there's no moral judgment here. It's great that they have been born with a wealth mindset, but our history has taught us to be very careful with money. And that's the thing. We are good savers, but we falter when it comes to converting savings into investments.
So do you think the new generation, they have not probably born with the same kind of mindset that, say, our generation is? Are they good savers or are they better investors than us?
I think it is it's very early to brand all of them. So I think in a country the size of India, you will have a whole spectrum of the millennials. But let's take, our sort of families and all. These kids have been born with a wealthy mindset. And some of them might not understand the importance of money because it's been given on a silver platter, on a golden platter. And because our generation struggled so hard, we are the children of liberalization, I call ourselves, that we could not have imagined what would happen in our lifetime, but liberalization of 91 made that happen. So a lot of us have blown the problems out of the way of our kids. And I call it the Raja Beta Rani Bitya syndrome, that you don't want them to worry about anything. So we've cotton wooled them too much. So I would never actually blame the kids ever. It is what we have communicated to them. And there are, again, it's not a general statement, but there is a group of kids in their 20s and early to mid 20s who simply cannot deal with the real world. And on the other side, you have parents who've been very, they've stayed with their value system, and they've stayed with understanding the role of money. And the kids have just watched that. And for such kids, parents have to put a spending floor, not a ceiling, that please spend at least that much. You're studying, you're abroad. I need to see the debits of at least this much. Please eat. So there is a whole range of kids out there. And the most important thing is, what is it that they've seen at home?
What is it then they should be seeing at home? Very important.
I think kids, it's a parenting thing. They don't listen to you. They see what you're doing. So if you want them to make intelligent money choices, then you have to make them in your own life, in all of our lives. And I'm talking about myself. I'm also a parent. So if we don't want them buying the next gadget because it's there, or giving into peer pressure, then I would hesitate to upgrade my car just because somebody who I look up to has bought that new car, or upgrade a phone because it's there. So it's literally how we behave with our own decisions that they're watching. And it just reflects in their lives totally. So I think it's an ongoing introspection as to what is it that I'm doing. It's a constant reflection, because somewhere they catch that reflection and they emulate that. So they do what you do, not what you say.
But in which case, if affordability is not a problem,
yes,
then why should there be a ceiling or a floor on spending? It's only when they are going beyond their means. Should it not be a concern only then, Monica?
Right. So
what kind of impact this could have in their lives?
Every income level will have something which is okay, right? So what is okay for somebody with a 100 CR net worth may not be okay for a 50 CR net worth, for a 10 CR net worth, for somebody who's still struggling to get it together. Mm-hmm. So at every stage, there will be norms on what is okay to spend. So for a family, it may be that an airline ticket is a luxury. For another family, if you just get a first class seat and not a charter, it's a real problem. So it's literally, what is it that works for you? And again, I constantly say there are no moral judgments. I mean, if that is what you want to spend that money, that's fine. And what you've said is very important. Why should we not spend? Yes, of course we should spend. but that spending should keep in mind that fortunes go up and down. So if we've done enough work on the preservation of wealth, if again I constantly will come back to fundamentals. Have we done enough so that my wealth preservation is in place? And after that, should I want to spend? Of course, I am actually, I think it's a great idea to live now rather than constantly save for some future you've not seen. But should that future come, you should have money to live that future as well. So it's a balance between a today that you're living. And this is especially true for the young. So when I talk to the young people, I'm saying that it's very boring to think of yourself at 60. And a lot of them think that global warming, etc., will collapse the world, and they really believe that everybody will die before that. So a lot of them don't want to get married, they don't want to save. And my communication with them is this, that sure, but what if you do survive? What happens if you have more life than money left? So yes, of course, today is the most important thing. But have a small thought to say that what happens to me, because money is about choices, isn't it? When the pandemic hit in Delhi and there weren't beds, there weren't oxygen, what did you needed money. Even nothing was working. You could only buy that bed if you could with money. So money just gives you choices. It's a ticket out of toxic situations. It's a ticket to a lifestyle that you can only. So it's really about what you want out of life, and money becomes the enabler. And if the money becomes a noose around your neck, we are seeing some very high profile cases right now. So if it takes you in that direction, then those are also choices. That yes, you have all the money in the world, but where has it taken you, and what kind of risks are you taking with your life because of this?
So money as an instrument is more important as a concept to know.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
I'm saying that you need to work your relationship with money first before you start on this whole investing journey. You need to understand what money means in your life and what is it that you want it for. So getting rich is a super goal. Everybody should be rich. What we need to think about is, how do you want to get rich, and what do you want to do when you get to that place? So getting rich, great goal, but what do you want to do to get there? And what do you want to do when you get rich? So it's a very romantic notion that, I'll have a life of leisure. A life of leisure pretty much is meaningless to a lot of people. So meaning in life, in survey after survey, has been ranked higher than money. So money again becomes an enabler to do what I want to do.
So even when we say, the journey from wealth to worth and well-being is exactly that. You need to find meaning in what you do. And that sort of puts a ceiling, which we call contentment, in place. Then,
Yes.
I don't need to get rich beyond this.
That's exactly. I mean, why do you want a 20% CAGR, a growth rate of 20%? You've already got the money for not just your life, but your kids' life and probably kids' life. So why do you need to take that risk to invest in something like a cryptocurrency, which is unregulated, probably illegal, with a lot of your wealth, right? So those are decisions only you can take. That why do I need that 20% return? Do I want that return so that the next time there is a meeting of peers, I can also boast? So it's very good to introspect to see, why do I want to tell a story that I have a multi-bagger? I bought Bitcoin and it was only this, and look at it now. Why do we want that return? Do I want it so that I want to grow my wealth? So have I preserved it first? Then I can take structured risk. So constantly ask yourself, why do I want that high return? Because returns will come with risk. And then we need a way to take structured risk. And only then is it worth it.
Yeah. So I've seen you, I've read when you say, or when you have been writing, risk appetite and risk tolerance are two
Right.
terms I see in your writing. How do
Right.
you describe these two? How different are they from each other, Manika?
Yes. So it's a really important one because there is, I call it risk capacity and risk appetite. So capacity of risk is how much risk you can actually take, and appetite is what you want to take. So let's look at a very simple example of capacity. There is a person, he has a family, he is looking after his parents. He's got one salary, okay? Average middle class person. And on his income is dependent the whole family, right? His capacity to take risk is very low, because should something happen to that money, the entire family's future is at risk. And on the other hand, so his appetite may be very high. He may want to take more risk, but he may not have the capacity. On the other hand, there is a double income, no kid couple whose parents are all sorted. They're in secure jobs. They have a much higher capacity for risk, but they may not have the appetite. They may be risk averse. They may not even buy a home on loan because they don't like debt. So this whole difference between how much risk do I want to take and how much should I be taking? Again, these are important conversations, and I'm sure most people here would be working with a planner or a family office. These are the questions that the planner should be talking to you about, not asking you, do you want 20% or 25% return? I mean, that's not the planner you want to go with. Okay. So the first few conversations with planners are really about who you are. It's like a good architect. The architect first figures out what kind of a family you are. Then he builds you a home according to who you are, because your home reflects your personality. A planner or a family office person will do exactly the same. They will figure out who you are, what is important to you, and then build your assets in that manner.
So there's a third element to your chain. One is risk capacity and risk appetite. The need to take risk. How much risk do I need to take? How do you tie in that with the other two?
So look, you will need to take risk. So somebody who already is, say, so let's look at the generation who's inheriting. All right, so they are inheriting enough for their entire life. They don't need to take risk at all. They can just be in GSECs, government securities. You can just buy that and that's it. That's wealth preservation. You'll have to figure out inflation, tax, all that. You need to be inflation and tax plus. But there are instruments to do that. I mean, if you just a simple ETF or an index fund with very low costs will get you ahead of inflation. So basic portfolio mix will do that. For that category of person who's already sorted, the need to take risk is not there. And then should that person want to grow the money, then they will have to decide how much risk they want to take. And risk, again, is, you should think of it as a portfolio approach, that there are products in the portfolio which will reduce the overall risk of the portfolio. For example, government securities, zero risk, it's gilt-edged. An index fund, higher returns in the longer run, but no fund manager risk. And you're getting the average return of the Indian stock market, Nifty 50 or Sensex, at a very, very thin cost, right? So now you want to take risk higher than that. And you get into managed funds, stocks, PMS, alternative investment funds. And then, so I'm not even calling cryptocurrencies investment. It's a punt. It's a lottery. It's unregulated. And then we are coming to this new way of growing wealth. And again, take a portfolio, take a slice of the money to get into, say, venture funding, to fund startups, because that's where you're seeing a lot of interest of the HNI and the ultra HNI to fund these startups. And then out of 10 startups, even if one becomes a unicorn, you've more than, I mean, it's a multi-bagger. So, but the risk becomes higher and higher and higher. So it really helps if, one, you're advised, or if you can learn yourself, to put in different risk metrics in your own portfolio, so that even if one slice blows up, the rest of the 80% will hold it together. Your wealth, whatever it is that has been created, you don't erode it by 1 rupee. You build on that.
So you first, in such a situation, you first create one compartment which is preserved, nothing
Yes.
happens to it.
Yes.
And then with the rest of it, if you wish, you could take any amount of risk that.
Yeah. And that also start with lower risk, then keep going higher. When you do that, you will also learn about what it feels like to take home a loss without it bankrupting your entire family. Because there are lifestyles issues. There are a whole lot of issues with having the kind of net worth that you might have, and you don't want to lose that. I mean, and again, be very careful with debt. I mean, very famous Bangalore example of somebody who jumped off the bridge. That
Correct.
do not then use leverage if you can't handle that risk or pressure.
One thought that comes in, Monica, is after you've sorted out your preservation aspect and then you're ready to take risk. And there you mention that it's good to keep grading the risk up as you go along.
Yeah.
What should be the time frame for that, over which you grade up the risk?
Time frame for constructing that portfolio?
Yes, as you learn. So you start with a moderate risk and then you go to an aggressive risk. So over how many years should one move the portfolio from, say, conservative to moderate to aggressive?
You know, Shrikant, it's really dependent on the person. I would imagine that a younger person, somebody in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, might make the gradation to higher risk much faster than somebody in their 50s. Because that risk averseness is in our blood. We are very, very reluctant to let go of something which is so hard fought. But for a younger cohort, they may upgrade to far higher risk far quicker than an older cohort. So again, money is about, it should not keep you awake at night. So if there is something which is troubling you, that's obviously not the investment for you. And the younger people's risk capacity, appetite, and their vision for India is in a far better place than people who are much older, because we've been through this whole period of India being a socialist country and change, etc. So I think there are cohorts and exceptions, of course. I mean, whatever I say, there'll be exceptions on both sides. I have seen older people with very, very high risk capacity. They are day trading because they've got pensions and they've got their money in place. And it's an old couple, you know, and they're saying, okay, what do? We'll day trade. So we have limits. So it's fun. And it's great. I mean, they are being very diligent about not breaching a certain limit, and that's what they want to do. So it passes their time, and that's what they want to do.
So yes, it happens very often that we have our clients coming in and saying, you know, but trading is exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
And that seems to be a great pastime for them.
Yes.
So
if you
is it
do
okay to do so?
Yeah, if you do it carefully, you put your limits, don't leverage. You put all of those seat belts, and then if they want to, it's like Tambola, no? If they want to have fun with day trading, and they only are going to do this much, it's not going to collapse their portfolio, nothing, lifestyle. If that's what they want to do, that's fine.
So if they just take the last 1% of their wealth and then trade on it, it's all right if it's going to give them excitement.
Yeah, it's your money. You want to do it. Just don't be in a position where you regret it. That's it.
Right. I know, that's very good. So we were two things that came out very strongly while we are talking: the older generation and the younger generation. We've constantly been talking about the older generation and the younger generation in our last few minutes. And that brings me to a point I often get into a discussion with clients is estate planning.
Yes.
Some of them are evolved, but many have not even written out a will. They say there's no need to write out a will. What are your thoughts on this, Monica?
So I want to ask you back a question. Why don't they want to write a will?
why should I take the trouble of writing a will? My children will handle it. They know how to handle it.
Okay. So all I can tell you is that I have got personally wills written by almost the entire extended family and friends. I have counseled people to write that piece, or write it out. A lot of hesitation in writing a will is because it brings home a whole lot of family issues. So money is not about the money. Decisions are never about the money. It's about the underlying tensions. It's we call it in Hindi, it's called ghar ghar ki kahani. It's every house has a dysfunctional, some part of it is dysfunctional. Okay, it's only in some movies where it's like picture perfect. So there is always a whole lot of tension between siblings, parents, and writing that will bring home that tension. So what I've understood from my own interactions is that reluctance to write the will is the reluctance to deal with these issues between the families, the different parts of the families. It would precipitate a whole lot of unpleasantness, possibly. A route out could be, yes, so will is important, but I think everybody should know that the Indian regulatory system is fragmented, and then you have the states who handle things like real estate. So it's a very messy thing. Intergenerational transfer of wealth in India is very, very messy because of the multiplicity of regulators and the interpretation of each of the players. So for example, a bank, unless there's a nomination on the account and a separate nomination of fixed deposit, will need a legal heir certificate and does not consider the will to be a valid document. So you can argue with them, you can do whatever, that there is a signed legal will, but the bank doesn't want to get into trouble in handing over assets to somebody who might not be the legal heir. So ideally the nominee and the legal heir should be the same person. So one of the things, so a baby step is to get them to at least put nominees on their assets, at least fill the nominee. And then that becomes the first step to saying, if you were to write your will, then at least we have all your assets documented in one place. And there is a statistic that you can show them. I think it's 82,000 crore of unclaimed money sits with the banks and insurance companies. 82,000 with 7 zeros behind it. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 zeros. Okay, 82,000 crore of money is unclaimed with banks, insurance companies. So, I mean, why do you want to add to this money which is going to sit with the government? You claim you dislike the government, don't give them more money, no? So at least so you'll have to, as a planner, you'll have to argue it out, give them reasons to put that document down. Should they worry about, so again, the other thing I found is that usually there is one next generation who is more enthusiastic about looking after the older people. And an equal division of assets may not be fair, but if it is not equal, it would trigger a whole lot of unpleasantness. So the other thing to tell them is that your will can be a secret document. It can be secret between you, the lawyer, and the planner, or if there is a family office. So the family can know that there is a will, but they need not know the contents of it, because then it triggers off a whole round of other issues. So these are unpleasant things to talk about, but I think these are very real issues and we need to address it head on. One is that we will all die, whether it is today or whether it is 10 years or 30 years later. I don't know if any of you have read the Mahabharata. I'm sure you know the story, but there is this scene where Yudhishthir goes to the pool and his 4 brothers are dead because they didn't answer the Yaksha's question. And the Yaksh asks Yudhishthir, what is the biggest surprise in this world? And Yudhishthir says, the fact that we all know we will die, but we pretend that we won't. So our mortality, somewhere it becomes the job of a planner to get people face to face with the fact that, yeah, okay, this comes to an end. And when it does, if I love my children, I will sort out the mess before I die. So I personally have, because I handle all the finances in my home. So I have actually, created over the years documents that would point the family in the direction of the assets, the passwords, everything, so that if an untimely event happens, those that you claim you love don't have to struggle, right? So you look after them after you're gone. That is what it's about. So if you can communicate some of those things, that yes, you care, please extend your care to after you have gone. Please do that document and do the nominations.
Perfectly said. That's true. So does a family office become important? So here we have a lot of large families, and many of them have set up family offices. Many of them want to set up family offices. Are these things useful?
Look, as we are moving, so let me answer that question in many ways. One is that there is a shift going on in the Indian economy, and that process began some years back. We are moving towards formalization. So whether it was a demonetization, which is a very controversial statement for me to make, but we should look at demonetization as one of the quivers one of the arrows in the quiver. It might not have had the impact which was desired because of a set of issues, but look at GST, look at the teeth given to the Benami Transaction Act, look at the IBC. So if you start stitching the evidence on the ground together, then there is a push towards formalization. RERA was passed in finally it became Act in 2019, as late as that. It is still very early days for RERA, but yet at least now we are on the path of regulating real estate. So the Evergrande story of China has played out in India in the last bubble. It'll be difficult with all the escrow accounts. So parts of it may go wrong, but this systemic blowout of real estate may not happen. Wealth used to be tied down in real estate with most of the rich families of India, because one, there was this whole issue of non-tax paid money. The avenues for investment were not that many. But as we are formalizing, you're seeing that real estate has been it's been the nuclear winter of real estate for many years. And that will continue till the rates come down to economically sensible numbers. The yields should get more sensible than they are today. Yields are about 1.5 to 2% yields are there on real estate. So the yields need to become more reasonable. The cash transaction in real estate, I know for a fact, are going down. So yes, there are still cash transactions, but yes, the number of white deals have multiplied in the last 10 years. So if you go to the market today to either buy or sell, the probability of getting a white deal, a full check deal, is far higher than it was 10 years ago. So the nature of the market is changing. The way that we invest will also start to change. So that is the argument that yes, we need to shift the way that we are going to be investing now. And then the asset classes open up. Once you start going to the formal part of the economy, then you start looking at your investing in a very different manner, Srikanth. And I have completely lost the thread of the question that you asked. So sorry.
So I will just come back to one more angle, which exactly comes to asset allocation.
Yes.
Okay, which we were sort of drifting towards.
Yes.
Okay, and there is a predominance of real estate in all our family wealth. Is that good or is that not good, Monica? I mean, I'm taking on from what you said about yield and Evergrande,
right?
The predominance of real estate coming down gradually.
Yes, I find real estate a very clunky asset. I feel, I know that we don't include all the costs. A lot of the real estate investments have been made because somebody had inside information on the change in land use. it's like having inside information on a stock. I would imagine those avenues will gradually reduce. It can never go away. But the systemic way in which real estate used to be invested in, because people knew which way the highway was going to go and which land after somebody has bought it then gets converted into commercial from agriculture. I mean, we know the stories. It's also a clunky asset in terms of the difficulty in buying, maintaining, selling. So you need a whole lot of lawyers and support staff to actually manage your real estate investments. Once you have tasted financial assets and the ease and the smoothness and the beauty of the technical platforms which allow you instant access, then you start to diversify. Because finally, what is it about? There's an emergency. I need to sell something. I need X lakh. I need X crore. How long does it take? And the minute you have a large property up for sale, quickly it's a distress sale. So investing is also about the ease of entry, of maintaining, the cost of maintaining, of exit, of are you being able to get the price which is in the market? So the minute we have listed securities like stocks, bonds, and even gold now, and real estate will get there. Once we've cleaned up the market, we'll be able to buy real estate off the market as a securitized asset. You can't do it because of this whole problem that I talked about. Then you start to think about diversification. And that's really the first step to move away from real estate. You can have a piece of real estate. You can have it as a part of your portfolio. But to weigh your portfolio down 80-90% with real estate, I think you're taking away the growth that you seem to be targeting. Right? And when I say this today, when market is at 60,000, you may listen to me more attentively. But I have said this when the market was I saw the Sensex at 2000. I began my working life then. So I've seen this market when Sensex was 2000, and every time it went double, tripled, everybody said that it will crash. It is a scam. It is this, it is that. But the market is reflecting the growth of the Indian economy because it reflects profit. So yes, short-term volatile. The CAG, the average annual growth of the Indian market is about, what, Shrikant, 14.5%.
True.
So if you see a long run return rate, that is what it has given. But there are periods of time, 5-year periods, 6-year periods where FTs have done better. You really need to think of real estate as this long-term train that you're riding, that you just onboard and you stay on. Because finally, the growth in the economy will reflect on the stock market, Sensex or Nifty 50. So that's your base level of stock market investing. Once you've got a piece of your portfolio in that, then you can start taking more risk with either small cap, mid cap, or PMS or alternative investments. So all this wine, cheese, saris, art is not investment in my life. I mean, it doesn't, these are not investments. There's no market price which is discovered. It's a point of view.
Yeah. No transparency there. No depth of market, so you don't get the right price.
Correct.
Amazing conversation, Monica. I just want to leave the floor open for questions from our members. So if any of you would like to ask a question of Monica, please unmute yourselves and go ahead and ask.
Monica, I have a question. Okay, Griffith, you go first.
Sorry, ma'am. Monica, just a quick question. Wonderful session. Thank you so much for being here and enlightening all of us. Do you think that we are moving into an inflationary environment in India and worldwide, considering all the money that's been unleashed and everything that's going on? And in that case, adding on to Shrikant's questions, where does one park one's money moving forward with everything going up, right? What's your money worth tomorrow?
So what we all need to know, that's why a little bit of macroeconomics comes into play, a bit of monetary policy comes into play. that in 2016, India became a country which charged its central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, to become an inflation targeting central bank. And this one policy move was, we didn't even understand what it meant, but it has huge implications for us as individuals. So what does that mean? We have, as a country, we have seen extremely high levels of inflation. So if you remember 2010, 2009, there was this big farm loan waiver. We spent 2009, 8, 9, we spent more than what we had. So then you print money and there are huge, inflation was at 10, 11%. Okay. So in 2016, when the government tells the RBI that you will now target inflation, and what is that target band? Between 2 and 6%. Our inflation should not go below 2 because then we get into deflation, stagflation. We don't want it to go above 6 because then it is a tax on the poor. We want you to be in the middle around 4, at 4. So on an average, you can go up and down, but we'd like you to, the needle should be around 4. So you have a central bank now who's been charged with keeping inflation in this band. So should we see inflation becoming higher than what the central bank is comfortable with, it'll have no option but to increase repo rates. Repo rates will go up and inflation will come down. So I think we are in a very interesting period where we've put a cap on inflation, and then read this along with the FRBM Act. So what is the FRBM Act? The Financial Responsibility and Budget FRB, Budget Management. Okay, so this was again, so the problem with being an electoral democracy is that before the election, it is in the interest of every government to spend. Okay, you can spend your way and win elections. And this has been the pattern. What does the FRBM say? That the government has to put limits on its fiscal deficit and revenue deficit, right? So it says that in an ideal state, your revenue deficit should be 0 and your fiscal deficit should be 3, which means that you're borrowing. So the government is borrowing only to create capital assets. This FRBM Act of revenue deficit 0 and fiscal deficit at 3 means that the government borrowing is not going to pay for current expenses. It's not going to pay for my dinner tonight, but it's going to pay for a home that I buy to live in for the long term. It's creating an asset which will. So read the inflation targeting with the FRBM to understand that we are not going to be in runaway inflation at all. Which then comes into our lives to say, how should I be thinking about my investments? I should be thinking of investments which give me inflation and tax plus return. If I can do that much, that's my base. So have your real estate investments done that over the last 10 years? No, the answer is no, they have not. On an average, take your portfolio return. Don't take one parcel which has done well. Take your portfolio real estate return. So see what asset will give you inflation plus post-tax return. And then you do your diversification. So to answer your question in short, no, inflation is not going to be a problem.
Thank you, Monica. I just want to say it's been a fantastic talk. I mean, it's really enlightening and really something we all want to hear. My question to you is that we women have this penchant for gold. So what's your thoughts on gold?
Lovely question, Namrata. And I was very impressed to see you talking all the way into the meeting. That was like real swag.
Really, I love to talk, by the way.
Wow. Okay, I love this gold question. And I will answer it starting from the fact that traditionally girls have been encouraged not to ask questions about money. We've been told that don't worry your pretty head, your father, brother, husband, son will look after it. So it's been a nice way to get you out of the family assets. So so when the girl, typically in most families, when she's married off, there is, you can call it by whatever kind of word that you want, but it is dowry. Okay, so it's gift. You can dress this thing up any which way that you want, but her share is given to her, and a lot of that is gold at the time of marriage, and she signs off the rights to the parental wealth. Whatever the law might say, things change. There are always exceptions, but that's the way it is. And very few women will get access to the assets of the house that she marries into. Okay, it's the father to son to grandson. In an environment where you didn't have access to either work outside the home or assets, gold became this thing that became really her emergency fund. Her real wealth was what she could wear, and she could just wear it and exit toxic situations. You could just, and no one would bat an eyelid because women buy gold. So it became really the safe, so she could have her safety net because she bought gold. And that worked in certain situations, and that's fine. I'm worried about modern women who have given up on gold, which is fine because, as an asset, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't give you rent, interest, dividend. It only grows and it keeps you just above inflation. Okay, but there's a whole taxation part to it, etc. So professional women have given up on the gold, but not yet onboarded the financial assets. So my communication with women is that either you onboard financial assets and have your name in the joint properties, your name should be there. You should have assets in your own name, financial assets. You should understand what it means. You should know what the share of the family wealth is for you. And then you can let go of gold. So it's contrary to what a lot of people might tell you, that gold is fuddy-duddy, it's old-fashioned. Yes, all of that. But it also was a big security net for women who didn't have access. So should you have access? Should you have access to a good financial planner? Should you have access to a good family office? Should you have access to all those things? Sure, gold is a piece of the pie of your portfolio. Okay, it's between 5 to 10%. But should you not have that, at least have that gold.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Any thoughts on men versus women in the investing world, Monica?
So what I've noticed is women are hesitant to start taking decisions. And this is not just Indian women, this is globally, it is seen that women are very good when the decision is in 3 zeros. But the minute it is 5 and 6 and 7 zeros, they tend to lose their nerve. Because again, it is a question of believing that you can do it or not do it. But from what I have understood of women, once they understand finance and when they start investing, they are far more stable investors than men are. But it takes a little bit of confidence building to get them to a point where they can take these decisions.
Yeah, that is where I think a lot of work to be done on awareness and education.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
In my experience too, yeah. Once they're in, women make very balanced decisions and very mature decisions.
Yes.
Okay. Never had any cause to complain. Actually, lesser cause to complain than in the case of male investors, what I have seen. And we can go on and on. This talk is very fascinating. Any other questions? Otherwise, I will ask IPP Ravi Nedungadi to give his vote of thanks. Any other questions from the floor?
I just hope it's not been too much of plain talk, because
No, it's been fantastic. Shrikant, I think Ravi ji is not here, and Amita Pandey will be doing the vote of thanks.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah, so
Yes.
we can ask Anamita to please do
Yes.
it.
Amita, please.
Monica, it's been fantastic, and thank you so very much.
thank you.
So, Monica, that was indeed a very interesting meeting. It was something definitely which was not to be missed. And starting with taking, I'm not a financial person. If you ask me how many zeros to a lakh, I have to think. So for me, it was very, very interesting. It was a huge eye opener. And I mean, there are a lot of things which one already knows, but we don't really think about them and we don't do anything about it, you know. So from understanding the Indian mindset to risk, to how much is really enough, to starting, you know, taking with simple steps, to accession planning, I think, succession planning, and being, you know, risk averse. And the last one, which is gold, of course. I think it was an excellent, excellent talk. Thank you so much for your time and for coming to Rotary and to speaking to us. And the next thing that I'm going to do is order the book.
There's no need to do that, Amita. I've got signed copies of the book with me, and I'm going to send it to each one of y'all. Okay. And
Thank
this
you.
has been very nicely autographed by Monica for all of you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So you're going to get
Thank
this
you.
book by mail shortly.
Thank you. That'll be very nice. So
Yeah.
thank you, Monica. Thank you, all the Rotarians who attended this evening, and wish everybody a lovely evening.
Yes.
Thank you, Amita. Thank you so much. And I'm delighted that each of you is getting a book.
Yeah. Yeah. It is something to be had in every bookshelf, to be read, to be passed on, worth its weight in gold.
Thank you.
And more.
Thank you so
and
much. Thank you.
more. Okay.
And
night.
again, 30 years later, thank you to Rotary for allowing me to have a second master's.
This is something amazing. I'm going to talk about this, Monica. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
Amazing talk, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Great
No?
speaker.
Yeah. Could have gone on and on actually on
Yeah,
this.
I
Shrikant,
know.
it was very good. It was excellent.
Mm. And,
Actually, we should have
Amita-
gone on. We
I
should
know,
continue
I
for a
know.
little more, little longer. Chalega, anyway.
Easily gone on, but I mean, people were dropping off, so I thought it's better to.
I know that's what I also saw, and I was a little worried about it. It's, cannot say anything.
Yeah, but
Less
actually,
said, the better.
yeah. One thing is we got to meet Virendra Shadakshi.
Ah, yes, indeed. He was
Okay,